Good day, everyone. So today we're looking at installation rules, paper 1, part 14. Again, we continue with special installations or locations, and in this video we take a look at section 7.7, which is medical locations, one of the popular ones in the exam, as well as one of the longer videos. This is going to be on special installations or locations. So in general, the particular requirements given in this sub-clause apply to electrical installations in medical locations to ensure the safety of patients and medical staff. These requirements mainly refer to hospitals, private clinics, medical and dental practices, healthcare centers, dedicated medical rooms in the workplace, and veterinary clinics. The requirements do not apply to medical electrical equipment. Where a change of utilization of the location has occurred, it will be necessary to modify the existing electrical installation in accordance with the requirements. Special care should be taken where intracardiac procedures are performed in existing installations. Where applicable, the requirements shall also be adhered to in veterinary clinics. Note: for medical electrical equipment, see SANS 60601-1. Terminology for medical locations. Applied part. Part of medical electrical equipment which in normal use for the equipment to perform its function necessarily comes into physical contact with a patient or can be brought into contact with a patient or needs to be touched by the patient. Main distribution board. Distribution board in the building that fulfills all the functions of a main distribution board for the supply area assigned to it and where the voltage drop is measured for operating the safety services. Medical electrical equipment. Electrical equipment provided with not more than one connection to a particular supply mains and intended to diagnose, treat, or monitor a patient under medical supervision and to perform one or more of the following functions: make physical or electrical contact with the patient, transfer energy to or from the patient, or detects such energy transfer to or from the patient. The equipment includes those accessories as defined by the manufacturer, which are necessary to enable normal use of the equipment. Medical electrical system. Combination of more than one item of medical electrical equipment and other non-medical equipment that have a specified function and are interconnected by coupling or a multiple portable socket outlet or both coupling and a multiple portable socket outlet. Note: the system includes those accessories that are needed for operating the system and that should be specified by the manufacturer. Medical location. Location intended for the purposes of diagnosis, treatment including cosmetic treatment, monitoring and care of patients. Note: to ensure protection of patients from possible electrical hazards, additional protective measures need to be applied in medical locations. The type and description of these hazards can vary according to the treatment being administered. The manner in which a room is to be used necessitates some division into different groups for different medical procedures. Group 0 location. Medical location where no applied part is intended to be used. Note: no additional requirements are listed and the normal requirements for an electrical installation apply. Group location 1 or group 1 location is a medical location where applied parts are intended to be used externally or to any part of the body but not to the heart. Group 2 location. Medical location where applied parts are intended to be used in applications such as an intracardiac procedure, in an operation, in an operating theater, and in vital treatment where discontinuity or failure of the supply can cause danger to life. Note, an intracardiac procedure is a procedure whereby an electrical conductor is placed within the cardiac zone of a patient or is likely to come into contact with the heart, such conductor being accessible outside the patient's body. In this context, an electrical conductor includes insulated wires such as cardiac pacing electrodes or intracardiac ECG electrodes, or insulated tubes filled with conducting fluids. Patient, living being, person or animal undergoing medical or dental investigation or treatment. Note, the person under treatment for cosmetic purposes may be considered, as far as these requirements are concerned, a patient. Patient environment in an allocated medical location. Volume in which intentional or unintentional contact between patient and parts of medical electrical system or other persons touching parts of the system can occur. The patient environment applies when the patient's position is predetermined. If not, all possible positions of the patients should be considered. So there's the patient environment in a medical location. That's 1.5 meters around the patient and 2.5 meters above the patient. Touch voltage, UL, voltage which during an insulation fault appears between simultaneously accessible parts. Note, by convention, the term touch voltage is used only in connection with protection against indirect contact. Medical IT system. Electricity supplied to patient environments in an allocated medical location where the supply is isolated from the earth and from the electricity supply to other areas of the medical location. Assessment of general characteristics. Classification. The classification of medical locations into groups shall be made in agreement with the medical staff, the health organization, or the body responsible for the safety of the patients in accordance with the national, regional, or local rules. In order to determine the classification of a certain medical location, it is necessary that the medical staff or the responsible body indicate which medical procedures will take place in the location. Based on the intended use, the appropriate classification for this location shall be determined. Classification of medical location shall be related to the type of contact between applied parts and the patient and to the purpose for which the location will be used. Applied parts shall comply with the relevant standard for such medical electrical equipment. Power supply. In medical locations, the distribution system shall be designed and installed to facilitate the automatic changeover from the main distribution network to the safety power supply source that feeds essential loads. Protection for safety. Firstly, protection against electrical shock. Protection against both direct and indirect contact. When using self or valve circuits or both in Group 1 and Group 2 medical locations, the nominal voltage applied to current using equipment shall not exceed 25 volts root mean squared AC or 60 volt ripple free DC. Protection by insulation of live parts and barriers or enclosures is essential. Exposed conductive parts of equipment shall be connected to the equipotential bonding conductor for example, the operating theatre luminaire. Protection against electric shock in normal use. Only protection by insulation of live parts or protection by barriers or enclosures is permitted. Protection by obstacles or by placing out of arm's reach is not permitted. Protection against indirect contact. Protection by automatic disconnection of supply, by electrical separation, or by the use of Class 2 equipment or by having equivalent insulation may be used, except in 7.7.4.3 up until 7.7.4.5. Protection by automatic disconnection of supply. In groups 1 and 2 medical locations, where automatic disconnection of supply is applicable, the conventional touch voltage shall not exceed 25 volts and disconnected time shall not exceed 0.2 seconds. Note, disconnection of supply for overload and short circuit conditions can be achieved by different design methods within the procedures of the general rules in order to comply with the required safety level. TN systems. In groups 1 and 2 medical locations, the maximum disconnection time shall not exceed 0.2 seconds for all circuits and final circuits that supply fixed equipment. In Group 1 medical locations, final circuits for sockets outlet up to 16 amp shall be protected by earth leakage protection devices with a rated earth leakage stripping current not exceeding 30 milliamps. In Group 2 medical locations, protection by automatic disconnection of supply by means of earth leakage protection devices that have a rated earth leakage stripping current not exceeding 30 milliamps shall only be used on the following circuits. Circuits for X-ray units, circuits for large equipment with power rating exceeding 5 kVA, circuits for non-critical electrical equipment or non-life support, and circuits for the supply of operating tables, alternative to medical IT systems of electricity supply. Care shall be taken to ensure that simultaneous use of many items of such equipment connected to the same circuit cannot cause unwanted tripping of the earth leakage device. Medical IT systems of supply, isolated systems, insulation monitoring. In Group 2 medical locations, the medical IT system of electricity supply shall be used for circuits that supply medical electrical equipment and systems intended for life support or surgical applications and other electrical equipment located in the patient environment, excluding equipment listed in 7.7.4.4. In the case of each Group 2 medical location, at least one separate medical IT system of electricity supply is necessary. The medical IT system shall be equipped with an insulation monitoring device that has an internal P impedance of at least 100 kiloohms, has a test voltage not exceeding 25 volts DC, is of a current, even under fault conditions, not exceeding 1 milliamp DC, and shall indicate at the latest when the insulation resistance has decreased to 5 kiloohms. A test device shall be provided to test this facility to ensure that the alarm, audible and visual, operates when the insulation resistance reaches 5 kiloohms. An overload and high temperature monitoring device for the medical IT system transformer is recommended. For each medical IT supply system, an audible and visual alarm system shall be arranged in a suitable place such that it can be permanently monitored by the medical staff. The alarm system shall incorporate the following components: a green signal lamp to indicate normal operation, a yellow or red signal lamp that signals when the minimum value set for the insulation resistance is reached. It shall not be possible for this light to be cancelled and disconnected, and an audible alarm that sounds when the minimum value set for the insulation resistance is reached. The audible signal may be silenced. The visual signal shall revert to green, and the audible alarm shall be automatically reset on the removal of the fault condition. Supplementary equipotential bonding. In each Group 1 and Group 2 medical location, insulated supplementary equipotential bonding conductors shall be installed and connected to the equipotential bus bar for the purpose of equalizing potential differences between the following parts located in the patient environment: protective conductors, extraneous conductive parts, screening against electrical interference fields, connection to screening floor grids, if any, and patient earth. Note, fixed conductive non-electrical operating theater tables should be connected to the equipotential bonding conductor unless they are intended to be isolated from earth. In Group 2 medical locations, the resistance of the conductors, including the resistance of the connections between the equipotential bonding bus bar and the terminals for the protective conductor of socket outlets or fixed equipment, or of any extraneous conductive parts, shall not exceed 0.2 ohms. Note, this resistor value can also be determined by the use of a suitable cross-sectional area of the conductor. The equipotential bonding bus bar shall be located in or near the medical location, in its distribution board or in its proximity. An equipotential bonding bus bar shall be provided to which the equipotential bonding conductors and protective conductors shall be connected. Connections shall be so arranged that they are clearly visible and can be disconnected individually. Each equipotential bonding bus bar shall be connected to the consumer's earth terminal or main earthing terminal with a separate insulated earthing conductor. Table 7.2 gives the minimum size of the earthing conductor for the corresponding phase conductors. So here we've got minimum cross-sectional area of earthing conductor for the corresponding phase conductor. So there we've got the size of phase conductor. So if the phase conductor is bigger than 16 square millimeters, the minimum size of the earth conductor shall be the same as the phase conductor. Where the size of the phase conductor is between 16 and 35 square millimeters, the minimum size of the earthing conductor is 16 square mil. And where the size of the phase conductor is bigger than 35 square mils, the earthing conductor shall be 50% of the phase conductor. Selection and erection of electrical equipment. Operational conditions. Wiring systems. Any wiring system in Group 2 medical locations shall be exclusive for the use of equipment and fittings in that location. All protective conductors shall be insulated conductors. Transformers for medical IT system of supply. Transformers shall be installed in close proximity to, inside or outside the medical location, but shall be placed in a cabinet or enclosure, if necessary, to prevent unintentional contact with live parts. The nominal voltage UN on the secondary side of the transformers for medical IT supply systems shall not be more than 250 volts AC. Medical IT systems of supply for Group two medical locations. Transformer shall comply with SAN 61558-2-15. The leakage current of the output winding to earth and the leakage current of the enclosure when measured in the no-load condition and the transformer supplied at rated voltage and rated frequency shall generally not exceed 0.5 milliamps. Single-phase transformers shall be used to form the medical IT supply systems for portable and fixed equipment, and the rated output shall be at least 0.5 kVA and shall not exceed 10 kVA. Three-phase supplies shall not be used in medical IT systems. When coding of insulated conductors is done by color, the colors red, white and blue for live conductors and green for the earth conductor shall be used. Because an isolating transformer output has no neutral, steps shall be taken to prevent any extraneous earth path such as metal wireways and other services. Note C 7.7.6 for tests and verification and the additional test report for a medical location. External influences. Note 1. Where appropriate, attention should be given to the prevention of electromagnetic interference. Note 2. Requirements for electrical equipment for use in conjunction with flammable gases and vapors are given in SANS 10108 for medical electrical equipment, see SANS 60601-1. Note 3. Prevention of the buildup of static electricity is recommended, where hazardous conditions can occur, for example, in the presence of flammable gases and vapors. Special precautions are required. See 7.14. Diagrams, documentation, and operating instructions. Plans of the electrical installation together with records, diagrams, and modifications thereto, and also instructions for operation and maintenance, shall be provided for the user. The relevant documents are in particular block diagrams showing the distribution system of the normal power supply and power supply for safety services in a single line representation. These diagrams shall contain information on the location of the sub-distribution ports in the building. Block diagrams showing switchgear, control gear, and distribution boards in a single line representation of the locations of the main and sub-distribution boards, and schematic diagrams of installation monitoring systems. Switchgear and control gear. Overcurrent protection shall be provided by circuit breakers which, on the occurrence of such overcurrent, shall disconnect all live poles simultaneously. They shall be set to discriminate against upstream protective devices in relation to short circuits. Other equipment. Lighting circuits. In groups 1 and 2 medical locations, the luminaires shall be connected to at least 2 circuits, one of which shall be connected to a safety service. In escape routes, alternate luminaires shall be connected to the safety services. Socket outlet circuits in group 2 medical locations. At each patient's place of treatment, for example, at bedheads, the configuration of socket outlets shall be as follows. Either a minimum of 2 separate circuits that feed socket outlets shall be installed, or each socket outlet shall be individually protected against overcurrent. Within the patient environment, for patient application, only a medical IT system shall be installed. Socket outlets on the TN system shall only be permitted if they are not compatible with the socket outlets on the medical IT system. Only one item of electromedical equipment shall be supplied from each point of outlet. Unless an accessible switch disconnector is mounted on the equipment, The switch disconnector at the point of outlet shall be within easy reach of the operator of the equipment. Socket outlets. In a Group 1 medical location, a minimum of 2 socket outlets per patient environment area shall be installed. In a Group 2 medical location, a minimum of 4 socket outlets per patient environment shall be installed. Wherever socket outlets in a medical location are connected on the medical IT system, each socket outlet shall be clearly and permanently marked to indicate that the socket outlet is for medical equipment only on the medical IT system. Socket outlets on the TN system in such locations shall be clearly and permanently marked for general use on the TN system. Safety services. Note, in practical terms, safety services in medical locations are synonymous with emergency services. For a classification of safety services for medical locations, see NHL. General requirements for safety power supply sources of Groups 1 and 2 medical locations. In medical locations, a power supply for safety services is required, which shall be energized in the case of a failure of the normal power supply source to feed the equipment stated in 7.7.5.6.2.1 and 7.7.5.6.2.2 with electrical energy for a definite period of time within a predetermined changeover period. If the voltage at the main distribution board drops at one of several line conductors by more than 10% of the nominal voltage, a safety power supply source shall assume the supply automatically. The supply transfer should be achieved with a delay to cater for auto reclosure of circuit breakers of incoming supplies, short time interruptions. Interconnecting cables between the individual components and sub-assemblies of safety power sources shall comply with 7.7.5.1.1. Power supply sources. Power supply sources with a changeover period of up to 0.5 seconds. In the event of a voltage failure of one or more line conductors at the distribution board, a special safety power supply source capable of maintaining luminaires of operating theaters and other essential life supporting and monitoring equipment for a minimum period of 3 hours is required. The safety power supply shall restore the supply within a changeover period not exceeding 0.5 seconds. Safety power supply sources with a changeover period of up to 30 seconds. When the voltage of one or more line conductors at the main distribution board for the safety services has decreased by more than 10% of the nominal supply voltage for a duration exceeding 3 seconds, equipment stated in 7.7.5.6.2.4 and 7.7.5.6.5 shall be connected within less than 30 seconds to a safety power supply source capable of maintaining the equipment for a minimum period of 24 hours. Note, the duration of 24 hours can be reduced to 3 hours if the medical requirements and utilization of the location facilitates the treatment or examination, and any evacuation of the building can be completed in the reduced time duration. Power supply sources with a changeover period that can exceed 30 seconds. Equipment other than that given in 7.7.5.6.2.4 and 7.7.5.6.2.5, which is required for the maintenance of hospital services, may be connected either automatically or manually to a power supply source capable of maintaining the equipment for a minimum period of 24 hours. This equipment may include, for example, sterilization equipment, necessary building services including air conditioning, heating, ventilation and waste disposal systems, cooling equipment, cooking equipment, and storage battery chargers. Power supply sources for lighting. In the event of a power failure, the changeover period to the safety power supply source shall not exceed 30 seconds, and the necessary minimum luminescence shall be provided from a safety power supply source to the following locations. Escape routes. Note the values for minimum luminance are required by national regulations. Lighting of exit signs, location for switch gear and control gear for emergency alternate supply, and for main distribution boards for normal power supply and for safety power supply services. Rooms in which essential services are intended. In each room, at least one luminaire shall be supplied from the safety power supply source. Rooms of Group 1 medical locations. In each room, at least one luminaire shall be supplied from the safety power supply source, and rooms of Group 2 medical locations, a minimum of 50% of the lighting shall be supplied from the safety power supply source. Power supply sources for other services. Other services that require a safety power supply with a changeover period not exceeding 30 seconds include the following: selected lifts for firemen, ventilating systems for smoke extraction, paging systems and nurse call systems, medical electrical equipment used in Group 2 medical locations that serve surgical and other measures of vital importance, electrical equipment for medical gas supply that includes compressed air, vacuum, anesthetics, exhaustion, and also their monitoring devices, and fire detection, fire alarms, and fire extinguishing systems. Note, this list is not exhaustive. Note 2. The responsible authority should define medical electrical equipment that requires a safety power supply. Verification. The instructions for tests and verification given in A to E apply to the electrical safety of the installation in compliance with the requirements of this part of SANS 10142, and also to the functions and performance of safety devices. The test shall be carried out before commissioning, after alterations or repairs, and before recommissioning. In each case, the date and result of the test, the measurement or verification shall be recorded. A. Test the functioning of the installation monitoring devices of IT systems and the audible and visual alarm systems. B. Verify the integrity of the components required in 7.7.4.6.3 for equipotential bonding. Take measurements to verify that the supplementary equipotential bonding is in accordance with 7.7.4.6.1 and 7.7.4.6.2. Measure the leakage current of the output circuit and of the enclosure of medical IT transformers in the no-load condition, and verify compliance with the requirements of 7.7.5.6 for safety power supply services. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this video. Please go to the playlist to see the rest of our videos in our range, as well as subscribe to our channel to be updated on the latest added content. Good luck with your exams, and thank you for watching my video.